Captain Jake Morrison stood at the viewing port of his ship, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. Nexus Prime was bigger than any city on Earth, spinning slowly in the darkness between stars. Lights covered its surface, like glowing jewels, and ships from dozens of different worlds moved around it like metal insects. "First time seeing it never gets old," said Dr. Lisa Hayes as she joined him at the window. She carried a thick folder of papers and looked nervous. "Hard to believe we're actually here." Jake nodded but kept watching the station. 3 years ago, humans had received their first message from space. It was simple and direct. "New species detected. Report to Galactic Council for classification and assignment." The message had included coordinates and basic travel instructions. Now, after the longest journey in human history, they were finally here. "Remember what we practiced," Jake said quietly. "Stay calm, be respectful, but don't let them push us around. We represent all of humanity today." Their ship, the Terra's Dawn, docked at a section marked for new arrivals. The docking bay was huge, with strange ships Jake had never imagined. Some looked like living creatures made of metal. Others were perfect geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. As they walked through the station's corridors, Jake noticed how other beings reacted to them. Most species moved out of their way quickly, keeping their heads down. A few stared openly, but their stares felt more like studying prey than showing curiosity. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seats arranged in tiers. At the bottom center sat a massive chair made of black stone, and in that chair was something that made Jake's skin crawl. The creature was nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark green scales that looked harder than armor. Its head was long and narrow like a crocodile's, but it sat upright like a man. When it smiled, Jake saw rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. Its eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake's eyes. "I am Admiral Zektor of the Kethvar Empire," the creature said in perfect English. Its voice was deep and had a hissing quality that made the words sound dangerous. "We learned your language from your transmissions. Crude, but functional." Around the chamber, Jake could see dozens of other species. Some looked like giant insects with too many arms. Others appeared to be made of living crystal that glowed with inner light. A few resembled various earth animals, but wrong in ways. That made Jake uncomfortable. "Welcome to the Galactic Council," Admiral Zektor continued. "You are here for classification. Every species in the galaxy fits into one of 2 categories, predator or prey. Your evaluation will determine your place in our civilization." Dr. Hayes stepped forward with her folder. "Admiral, we come in peace seeking trade and friendship. Humanity has much to offer in terms of science, art, and culture." Several species in the chamber made sounds that might have been laughter. "Admiral," Zektor's smile grew wider, showing more teeth. "Peace," he repeated the word like it tasted funny. "Friendship. These are prey words. In this galaxy, there are those who hunt and those who are hunted. There is no middle ground." A crystalline being near the center of the chamber spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "I am Crystal Singer Uthmi of the Veltar Collective. What the Admiral says is truth. For 3,000 years, the Kethvar have maintained order through strength. Before them, my people's ancient enemies, the Zithak, ruled through similar means." Jake looked at the insect-like creatures she mentioned. They were large, with 4 arms and heads that moved constantly like they were watching for threats. Even sitting still, they looked ready to fight or run. "Your species appears to be mammalian," Admiral Zektor said, standing up from his chair. Even at a distance, his size was impressive. "Soft skin, small teeth, no natural weapons. You show classic prey characteristics." "We're not prey," Jake said firmly. "Humans are capable of defending themselves." "Are you?" The Admiral's laugh was like grinding stone. "Then prove it." With liquid grace, Admiral Zektor leaped down from his chair to the center of the chamber floor. The jump should have been impossible for something his size, but he landed silently and moved toward one of the Zithak representatives. "Warrior Prime Click-Tar," he called. "Show our new guests how we settle disputes here." The insect being clicked and buzzed, then scuttled down to face the Admiral. It was large, probably 2.5 meters tall, with 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. Its head had compound eyes and mandibles that could probably bite through steel. What happened next was over in seconds. The Zithak moved first, faster than Jake's eyes could follow. All 4 arms struck at once, claws extended, but Admiral Zektor was somehow faster. He caught 2 of the arms, spun around the creature, and his tail whipped forward to wrap around the Zithak's throat. There was a sharp crack, and the insect creature fell to the floor and didn't move. The Zithak were apex, predators on their world, Admiral Zektor said casually, not even breathing hard. They conquered 17 star systems before we met them. Now they serve us because predators serve stronger predators and prey serves everyone. The chamber was completely silent. Jake felt his heart racing but kept his face calm. Beside him, Dr. Hayes was pale but held her folder steady. Your turn, humans, the Admiral said. Prove you are more than prey or accept your place in the natural order. Crystal Singer Utham's voice chimed softly. Admiral, perhaps we should give them time to consider. No. Admiral Zektor's yellow eyes fixed on Jake. Hesitation is a prey response. If they are predators, they will act like predators. Jake looked around the chamber at all the different species watching them. Most looked afraid. A few seemed curious about what would happen next. The Kethvar in the upper tiers were leaning forward like they were watching entertainment. What kind of proof do you want? Jake asked. Admiral Zektor's smile returned. Simple. A hunt. You and 11 of your people will be placed on Krixtal, one of our training worlds. 3 hunting packs of my warriors will pursue you. If any of you survive 72 hours, we will consider that you might be something other than prey. And if we refuse? Dr. Hayes asked. Then you are assigned to prey status immediately. Your people will serve as laborers, food sources, or entertainment as we see fit. Your world will be managed accordingly. Jake felt anger building in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry wouldn't help humanity now. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people depending on this moment. He thought about human history, about all the wars and struggles that had brought them to the stars. We accept, he said. Admiral Zektor looked surprised for just a moment, then pleased. Excellent. Your ship will provide the personnel. The hunt begins tomorrow. As they were escorted out of the chamber, Crystal Singer Uthmi approached them quietly. Humans, she whispered in her wind chime voice. I hope you understand what you have agreed to. Krixtal is a death world. Nothing survives there without being a killer. Jake looked back at her crystal form. Ma'am, with respect, you don't know humans very well yet. Perhaps, she replied. But the galaxy knows predators, and you do not look like any predator we have seen. As they walked back to their ship, Dr. Hayes whispered, Jake, what have we done? We're sending people to die. Jake watched the strange, alien ships moving past their window. Lisa, they were going to classify us as prey no matter what we said. At least this way, we get to show them what humans are really made of. But Krixtal sounds horrible. It does, Jake agreed. Good thing, humans are from Earth. And Earth makes every other world look easy. The transport ship dropped them on Krixtal at dawn, if you could call it dawn on a world with 3 suns. The sky was orange and red, and the air smelled like sulfur and burning metal. Steam rose from cracks in the ground where lava bubbled. Underneath. Colonel Sam Rodriguez stepped off the transport last, looking around at his team. 12 of the best soldiers humanity had to offer, all volunteers who knew they might not be coming home. The transport's engines were already spinning up to leave. Listen up, Sam called out as the ship lifted away. Command briefing in 60 seconds. Marine Beth Carter was already checking her gear. She was the team's engineer, small and quick, with hands that could build or destroy almost anything. Next to her, Sergeant Danny Walsh was studying the landscape through his rifle scope. Danny had been a sniper for 15 years and could hit targets other people couldn't even see. Corporal Tony Garcia, their medic, was taking readings with his medical scanner. Air's breathable but toxic, he reported. These masks will filter most of it, but we'll need to limit exposure time. The rest of the team spread out in a defensive circle while Sam opened the mission briefing tablet. Okay, people. We've got 72 hours to survive on this rock. 3 Kethvar hunting packs are being released in 1 hour. Each pack has 4 hunters led by something called a Fang Lord. Private Lucy Stone, the youngest member of the team, raised her hand. Sir, what do we know about Kethvar tactics? They're ambush predators, Sam replied. Fast, strong, and they hunt alone or in very small groups. They rely on quick kills and overwhelming force. The good news is they've never faced anything like us. Sergeant Rick Davis, their communications specialist, was setting up their portable command post. Sir, the whole galaxy is watching this. Every species with a television is tuning in to see humans get torn apart. Then let's give them a show they'll never forget, Sam said with a grim smile. The landscape around them was brutal. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like broken teeth. Pools of acid bubbled in low areas, and the air shimmered with heat. Strange plants with thorns like knives grew in patches, and everything seemed designed to kill. This place makes Afghanistan look like a vacation resort, muttered Private Kevin Miller as he checked his weapon. They had basic gear, rifles, ammunition, medical supplies, and survival equipment. Nothing fancy, nothing the Kethvar couldn't have given to any species. The test was supposed to be about natural ability, not technology. For the first few hours, they moved carefully through the hellish landscape. Beth Carter mapped safe routes around the acid pools while Danny Walsh found elevated positions for observation. The team moved like they had trained together for years, which they had. Then the hunting horn sounded in the distance. Contact incoming, Danny called from his perch on a rock formation. I see movement about 2 clicks northwest. 4 figures moving fast. Pack hunting formation, Sam ordered. Lucy, Kevin, take the left flank. Beth, Tony, you're with me center. Danny, find a hide and provide overwatch. Rick, maintain communications. The first attack came exactly as Sam expected. The Kethvar pack moved with incredible speed, trying to surround and overwhelm them. The Fang Lord leading them was even larger than Admiral Zektor, with scars covering his scales and claws that gleamed like metal. But the humans were ready. Danny's rifle cracked once, and one of the Kethvar hunters stumbled, green blood flowing from his shoulder. The aliens had never faced long-range precision fire before. They were used to close combat where their natural weapons gave them the advantage. They're fast, Lucy reported over the radio as she and Kevin fell back. But they move in straight lines. Predictable. The Fang Lord roared something in his own language and charged directly at Sam's position. It was exactly what Sam hoped he would do. The alien was thinking like a predator, trying to eliminate the pack leader to scatter the rest. But humans had learned long ago that when someone charges you in a straight line, you don't stand there and fight fair. You move and you make them pay for their mistake. Sam rolled left as the Fang Lord's claws swept through the air where his head had been. Beth Carter's improvised explosive, made from their basic supplies, went off right under the alien's feet. The blast didn't kill him, but it sent him flying into a thorny plant that wrapped around him like wire. Target down, Beth reported calmly. Homemade claymore works just fine on alien scales. The other 3 Kethvar hunters suddenly found themselves facing a coordinated team instead of scattered prey. Danny's rifle spoke again, and another hunter went down permanently. Tony Garcia put 3 shots center mass into the third one while Kevin and Lucy flanked the fourth. In less than 10 minutes, the first Kethvar hunting pack was eliminated. Well, said Rick as he checked the bodies. That wasn't so hard. Don't get cocky, Sam warned. That was just the first wave. They'll learn from this. But as the day wore on, something strange happened. The second pack took longer to find them, and when they did attack, they were more cautious. The Fang Lord leading them had obviously been told about the first pack's fate. This time, the Kethvar tried to use the terrain, approaching from multiple directions and using the acid pools as cover. They were adapting, which showed they were intelligent hunters. Unfortunately for them, humans had been adapting to new threats for millions of years. They're learning, Danny observed as he tracked the second pack through his scope. But we're learning faster. The second engagement was longer and more difficult. The Kethvar had figured out that humans used ranged weapons and tried to stay in cover. But they hadn't figured out that humans could coordinate across long distances without making noise. Using hand signals and pre-planned movements, the team split into 3 groups and began herding the alien hunters toward a natural choke point Beth had identified earlier. It was a narrow passage between 2 rock formations, and she had already rigged it with surprises. Private Lucy Stone was the bait. She moved through the passage deliberately slowly, limping slightly to appear wounded. The Kethvar took the bait, following her into the kill zone. The second pack died in a series of explosions and crossfire that lasted 30 seconds, but it was during the cleanup that disaster struck. Lucy, still playing wounded, wasn't watching her footing carefully enough. The ground near one of the acid pools was weaker than it looked. With a crack like breaking glass, the surface gave way, and Lucy fell through into the bubbling liquid below. Her scream lasted only a few seconds. The team stared at the pool where she had disappeared. The silence stretched long enough that even the sounds of Krikstal seemed to pause. First casualty, Tony said quietly into his medical recorder. Private Lucy Stone, killed in action by environmental hazard. Sam felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders. He had lost soldiers before, but it never got easier. She did her job, he said finally. Now we do ours. Across the galaxy, the audience watching the hunt was confused. Species that had never seen humans before were trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The Kethvar were supposed to be unstoppable hunters, but these soft mammals had killed 8 of them without losing a single member to combat. On Nexus Prime, Admiral Zektor was no longer smiling. Crystal Singer Uthmi was running calculations that shouldn't have been possible. The Zethak representatives were clicking and buzzing to each other in what sounded like worried conversation. Back on Krikstal, the third pack was taking much longer to make contact. Sam could hear them in the distance, moving more carefully, taking their time. They were scared, which was something Kethvar hunters had probably never experienced before. They're thinking now, Danny reported from his new position. Moving slow, checking everything twice, we've got them spooked. Good, Sam replied. Scared hunters make mistakes, and we're very good at punishing mistakes. As the second night on Krikstal began, the remaining 11 humans settled into their defensive positions. They had survived longer than any species in galactic history, but more importantly, they had turned the hunt around. Tomorrow, Sam decided, they would stop being the hunted. Tomorrow, they would start being the hunters. The third day on Krikstal began differently. Instead of waiting for the Kethvar to find them, Colonel Sam Rodriguez had his team moving before the suns came up. They had spent the night tracking the third hunting pack, learning their patterns, studying their movements. Time to show them what real predators look like, Sam whispered into his radio. Across the galaxy, emergency council sessions were being called on dozens of worlds. The impossible was happening on every screen. Humans were not just surviving against the Kethvar, they were winning. Species that had been classified as prey for thousands of years were watching with growing hope and fear. On Nexus Prime, Admiral Zektor was pacing his private chambers like a caged animal. 2 of his best hunting packs were dead, killed by creatures that looked like they couldn't hurt a child. His personal communicator buzzed with incoming calls from Kethvar commanders across the galaxy, all asking the same question. How were soft mammals defeating their apex predators? Send reinforcements, he finally ordered. Double the hunting packs. Break the traditional rules if necessary. His aide, a younger Kethvar named Sektar, hesitated. Admiral, the Galactic Council specifically said this was to be a fair test. 3 packs only. Admiral Zektor's yellow eyes blazed. Nothing about this is fair. These humans are using some kind of trick we don't understand. Send 2 more packs immediately. Back on Krikstal, the humans had found the third pack's camp. Fang Lord Vashatar and his 3 hunters were resting in a cave system, thinking they were safe from the prey they were supposed to be hunting. Danny Walsh lay on his stomach on a ridge 800 meters away, watching them through his rifle scope. I count 4 targets, he whispered into his radio. They're being more careful now, but they still don't understand how far we can reach. Negative on the long shot, Sam replied. We're going to get close and personal this time. They need to understand what human hunters really do. The plan was simple and terrible. Humans had been persistence hunters for millions of years. Before, they had tools or weapons. Early humans had run down prey animals that were faster and stronger, chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. It was humanity's oldest hunting technique. Beth Carter had spent the night setting up a trail of small explosives and noisemakers, not enough to kill, just enough to drive their targets in the right direction. Tony Garcia had mapped every water source and rest point in a 20-kilometer area. Kevin Miller and Rick Davis were positioned at key choke points along the route. The hunt began at midday when Danny's rifle cracked once. The shot wasn't meant to kill, just to wound Fanglord Vashitar in the leg and get the pack moving. The Kethvar roared in pain and rage, then did exactly what Sam hoped he would do. He ran. All 4 Kethvar fled from the cave, moving fast on their powerful legs. They were faster than any human in a sprint, but that wasn't the point. The point was to keep them moving. For the next 6 hours, the humans drove the Kethvar pack across the hellish landscape of Krikstal. Every time the aliens tried to stop and rest, another rifle shot would crack from a different direction, or one of Beth's noisemakers would explode nearby. They couldn't tell how many humans were chasing them, or where the next attack would come. The Kethvar were built for quick, overwhelming attacks. They had never faced an enemy that simply wouldn't stop coming. Every time they thought they had lost their pursuers, another shot would ring out, another small explosion would drive them forward. This is impossible, Fanglord Vashitar gasped to his hunters as they crouched behind some rocks. Green blood was still flowing from his wounded leg. They should be tired by now. They should have given up. But the humans didn't give up. They couldn't run as fast as the Kethvar, but they could run longer, much longer. While the alien hunters were gasping for breath and stumbling from exhaustion, the humans were still moving with steady, mechanical precision. Tony Garcia was monitoring everyone's condition through their suit sensors. Heart rates are elevated but stable, he reported. We can keep this up for another 10 hours if needed. The galaxy watched in growing amazement as the hunt continued. The Kethvar, who had ruled through fear and strength for 3,000 years, were being run to death by creatures they had dismissed as weak prey. Crystal Singer Uthmi was updating her probability calculations every few minutes, and the results kept getting more impossible. They shouldn't be able to maintain this pace, she chimed to her assistants. Their biology readings indicate they're operating at maximum efficiency after 6 hours of continuous pursuit. This violates everything we know about mammalian endurance. On the surface of Krikstal, the chase was entering its final phase. The Kethvar pack was moving slower now, stumbling and gasping. Fanglord Vashitar's wounded leg was getting worse, and his hunters were barely staying upright. Please, one of the hunters called out in broken English as he collapsed against a rock. We surrender. We yield the hunt. Sam's voice came through the team radio, cold and professional. Negative. They don't get to surrender. They wanted to hunt humans for sport. Now they get to learn what it feels like to be prey. The end came at sunset. The Kethvar pack finally collapsed in a small valley, too exhausted to run anymore. They lay on the ground, gasping, their powerful bodies finally defeated by simple human endurance. Sam and his team surrounded them slowly, weapons ready, but not immediately threatening. The humans looked tired, but not exhausted. They could have kept going. You want to know what real predators look like? Sam asked Fanglord Vashitar. We don't kill fast. We don't rely on claws or teeth or venom. We just don't stop. Ever. Your people conquered the galaxy because you were scarier than everything else. But you've never met anything that was more patient. Danny Walsh's rifle settled on the Fanglord's head. On Earth, we have a saying. You can run, but you'll just die tired. The execution was quick and professional. 4 shots, 4 dead Kethvar hunters. But as the team was regrouping, Rick Davis picked up radio chatter from orbit. Colonel, we've got a problem. I'm reading 2 more dropships incoming. Looks like they're sending reinforcements. Sam spit into the dust. So much for their fair test. Beth, how much explosive material do we have left? Enough to make them regret breaking their own rules, she replied with a grim smile. 2 more. Hunting packs meant 8 more Kethvar hunters, including 2 more Fanglords. The humans were outnumbered now, and they had been fighting for 3 days straight. But as Sam looked around at his remaining team, he saw something in their eyes that the galaxy had never seen before. Humans who had tasted victory and wanted more. "All right, people," Sam said as the new dropships appeared in the orange sky. "They want to change the rules? Fine. Let's show them what happens when humans stop playing games." Tony Garcia checked his medical supplies and found something interesting. "Colonel, I've been monitoring our stress hormones. We're not getting tired, we're getting excited. Combat is actually making us stronger." Across the galaxy, species were beginning to understand something terrifying. The humans weren't just surviving because they were lucky or clever. They were thriving because this is what they were made for. On Earth, every living thing had evolved to kill or avoid being killed. Humans had evolved to be better at both than anything else on their world. Now they were bringing millions of years of evolution's most successful predator to a galaxy that had never seen anything like them. The real hunt was about to begin. The 2 new dropships landed on opposite sides of the valley, and 8 fresh Kethvar hunters emerged. These were different from the first 3 packs. Their armor was darker, their weapons more advanced, and they moved with the confidence of elite killers. The 2 Fanglords leading them were massive even by Kethvar standards. Colonel Sam Rodriguez watched them through his binoculars and smiled coldly. "Look at that. They sent their best." The humans had taken position in a natural fortress of rocks and caves that Beth Carter had prepared with her remaining explosives. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. They were down to 10 people now, facing 8 of the galaxy's most dangerous predators. "Sir," Rick Davis called from his communications post, "I'm picking up transmissions from orbit. Every major species in the galaxy is watching this. The betting pools have gone crazy." Danny Walsh settled into his sniper position and began ranging targets. "What are the odds?" "Started at 1,000 to 1 against us," Rick replied. "Now it's down to 3 to 1. Apparently, we've impressed some people." The attack came at dawn, but not the way anyone expected. Instead of charging directly at the human position, the Kethvar split into 2 groups and began a careful approach from multiple angles. They had learned from the fate of the first 3 packs, but humans had been learning too. "They're trying to be smart," Sam observed as he watched their movement patterns. "Problem is, they're still thinking like individual hunters, not like a real pack." The first sign that something was wrong came when Fanglord Kractus, leading the eastern group, stepped on what looked like solid ground. Beth's improvised landmine sent him flying 20 meters through the air. He landed hard but got up, roaring in pain and rage. "Contact east," Beth reported calmly. "Big Ugly is wounded but still mobile." The second surprise came when the western group tried to climb the rocks toward Danny's position. What they found were not just explosives, but a carefully planned killing field that funneled them into a narrow space where Danny could pick them off one by one. His rifle cracked steadily, and Kethvar hunters began falling. These were supposed to be elite warriors, but they were dying like amateurs because they had never faced an enemy that thought 3 moves ahead. "This isn't hunting," Fanglord Vorthax snarled to his remaining hunters. "This is some kind of trap warfare. These creatures fight like cowards." But Tony Garcia, monitoring their communications through captured equipment, had a different perspective. "They're calling us cowards for using tactics," he reported to Sam. "They still don't understand that this is how real predators think." The battle continued for hours, but it wasn't really a battle. It was a systematic destruction of the Kethvar forces by an enemy they couldn't understand. Every time they thought they had figured out the human strategy, it changed. Every time they adapted to one threat, a new one appeared from an unexpected direction. The end came when Fanglord Kractus, wounded and desperate, made a final charge directly at Sam's position. It was exactly what Sam had been waiting for. As the massive alien rushed toward him, Sam didn't retreat or try to fight him hand to hand. Instead, he led Cractus directly into Beth's final surprise, a controlled explosion that brought down half, the cliff face burying the Fanglord under tons of rock. When the dust settled, only 2 Kethvar hunters were still alive, and they were running as fast as their legs could carry them. "Let them go," Sam ordered when Danny asked for permission to shoot. "I want them to tell their friends what happened here." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of wind across the rocks and the distant rumble of Krixtal's volcanoes. 10 humans had faced the galaxy's apex predators and won completely. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Species that had been classified as prey for millennia were demanding answers. The Kethvar representatives were trying to explain how 12 soft mammals had destroyed 5 hunting packs of their best warriors. Admiral Zektor stood before the council, his usual confidence shattered. "This is impossible," he kept repeating. "It violates every natural law we know." Crystal Singer Utham's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Perhaps we need to reconsider what we think we know about natural laws." When the transport ship came to collect the human survivors, Captain Jake Morrison was aboard. He found his 10 people sitting calmly in the ruins of their defensive position, cleaning their weapons and treating minor wounds. They looked tired but not defeated. If anything, they looked satisfied. "Status report, Colonel," Jake said as he surveyed the battlefield. "Mission accomplished, sir," Sam replied. "Kethvar are neutralized as a threat. Recommend we proceed to Phase 2 of First Contact." "Phase 2? Jake raised an eyebrow. "Yes, sir. The part where we explained to the galaxy that this was us being polite." The return to Nexus Prime was very different from their first arrival. This time, the docking bay fell silent when the humans walked through. Species that had ignored them before now watched with careful attention. Some looked afraid. Others seemed curious. All of them showed respect. The council chamber had been rearranged. The black throne at the center was empty. Admiral Zektor stood to one side with the other Kethvar representatives no longer commanding the room. Jake noticed that Crystal Singer Uthmi had been given a more prominent position. "The demonstration is complete," Jake announced to the assembled council. "Humanity requests reclassification from prey status to full member status." Admiral Zektor stepped forward, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Your people fought." "Well," he admitted, "but this was trickery, not true predator behavior. You used tools and tactics instead of natural weapons." Dr. Lisa Hayes opened her folder and began reading from prepared notes. "Admiral, you asked us to prove we were predators. Let me tell you about human predator behavior. We evolved on a death world where everything was trying to kill everything else. We survived ice ages that would extinct most species. We've been in continuous warfare for our entire recorded history." She turned to address the entire council. "What you call impossible tactical adaptation is what we call basic military training. Every human child learns strategy that would be advanced warfare for other species. We don't just hunt individual prey. We hunt entire ecosystems." "Your people are strong," Jake continued, looking directly at Admiral Zektor. "But strength without intelligence is just another form of prey behavior. You conquered the galaxy because you were scarier than everything else you met. But fear only works until you meet something that doesn't know how to be afraid." Crystal Singer Utham spoke into the silence that followed. "What are you proposing, Captain Morrison?" "Simple," Jake replied. "A new galactic order, not based on who can kill who in single combat, but on mutual cooperation and protection. Humanity offers its services as a peacekeeping force. We'll make sure no one species dominates the others." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Zektor asked. Jake's smile was friendly but cold. "Then you'll discover that what happened on Krixtal was us being gentle. You really don't want to see what happens when humans stop playing by other people's rules." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with special status as a neutral peacekeeping force. The age of predator-prey hierarchy was officially over. As they left the council chamber, Admiral Zektor approached Jake privately. "Your species is dangerous," he said quietly. "Yes," Jake agreed, but we're dangerous to the right people. Sleep. Well, Admiral, humanity is watching now. The galaxy had learned something new that day. There were predators, and there were prey, and then there were humans. And humans were something else entirely, something that even predators should fear.